Hello crafty friends and welcome to my 10 cards 1 kit for the Simon Says Stamp November 2019 card kit. Now this card kit I actually took a while to make cards and it is going to be a little bit different. I unfortunately don't have the process video for each one of the cards. I had some issues and some of my files got corrupted, so I was not able to recover it. However, because I did this in different bits and pieces, I do have a little bit of footage on some of the cards that I made. Now they are all very clean and simple, and as you can see here, I used a little reindeer die that comes in the card set, and I was trying to make a 1-layer card. I decided to add a piece of pattern paper to the background, so that way I could just kind of decorate it, and then I put a panel on the back. You could actually do it the opposite way if you wanted to do it, but it was just an experiment for me. So I had to put that piece of paper on the other side so that way it could, cover up the messy background, as you can say. Now I added some Nuvo drops for the little eyes, and I'll come here in a second and show you. To stamp the sentiment, I just put the You're one of a kind, which is a sentiment that comes with the kit. I had added some of my art glitter glue to glue the little pom-pom as his nose, but I didn't think that was gonna work, so I actually came back and added some Ranger multimedia matte adhesive instead. I used some of my Nuvo drops to create the little to fill in the little eyes instead of saving the little tiny pieces from the die. I thought this would be easier and faster. So here you can see I switched to my multimedia matte, and that worked perfectly because, once you leave it there, it is a very strong adhesive, so it glued the little pom-pom with no problem at all. And then that was my card. Now for this other one is one of I am using one of the little watercolor cards that was included in this card kit, and this card kit actually came with a whole bunch of them, which I was super excited because they're ready for you to just sit and color and create a ton of cards in one, very quick and easy. So on top of making your own cards using your stamping, you have these, I believe it was 10 sheets that you could make cards essentially. So you can make tons and tons of cards. Great value for this card kit. I'm so super excited that I did decide to get it. But like I said, also this card kit included that watercolor palette, so I am using it here to color it. I am using one of my watercolor brushes instead of the little tiny brushes that come with it, and I did grab one of the little ones, though because this was a larger area I should have grabbed a bigger one, but that's what I had when I was coloring, and that's what I was using. So like I mentioned, I was doing this in little bits and pieces because I have a lot of work in progress projects currently. So yeah, you can see my craft room is a mess, but I wanted to come and make these cards and show you the cards that I created with this kit because I was super excited about it. Now here I am adding a little bit more of color because when you use watercolors, they actually dry a little bit lighter than they go down. So once I put it down, I decided that I didn't like how light it was, so I went back and I added a little bit of a darker brown. And I'm just going and trying to create a little bit of shading onto this card. Now I decided that I wasn't going to use this card as a full card. I was going to be trimming out that little bear to create my little card. So I'm not too worried about the background or anything at the moment. But I am also creating or trying to add a little bit of texture to the bear so that way you could see that he's a little bit fuzzy. And that's what I'm trying to achieve here. With these watercolors, I don't know that I'll be using them a lot because they are a little bit grainy. If I just want to sit down and have some fun, or if I'm on a pinch, I'll do it. But I like the soft smooth feeling or look of watercolors, as you can see here as it goes down, but it dries very light. Once you layer it up a little bit more, you can start feeling that grainy texture from the watercolors, which is usually when they're pretty inexpensive watercolors usually happens. Though I don't know how the granulation, I think that's what it's called, happens on the watercolors, is based on how the color or the pigments are mixed. But these were pretty grainy, like I said, so I don't know that I'll be using them too much, but they were fun to use anyway, and it does include a good variety. So if you are only making cards for yourself, or you're not doing anything fancy, this will work perfectly. Also, if you like that texture, that would be also a great you know set to have. I actually failed to check to see if Simon Says stamp carries the watercolor little palette by itself, but I know that they do include, or they do sell watercolors, different types, and then also the little dots from um, the little watercolor dots that they include, so you can purchase those as well. But anyway, like I said, I am just adding some color here, and then this is pretty much the one card that you will be able to see through the whole process, or see me making or put together, doing all the coloring and whatnot. So I am using a couple of different colors, and trying to create dimension onto that little hat. I wasn't happy with how dark it was looking, so I just grabbed my paper towel and picked it up. That is another thing that I like about watercolors, because when the colors are still wet, you're essentially able to pick them up and lift them off. So if you mess up, it's no biggie. So here I am adding just a little bit of a darker color or red for the little scarf, because I wanted to add a little bit of color. It, like I said, once the color dries, it's going to look a lot lighter than it actually looks right now. So that's why I wanted to come back and add a second layer of that red paint. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit of a different video, and this is about the only card that you'll see me make, or for the full card. But I hope that you guys enjoy the cards that I created, and you go and check out Simon Says stamps for the card kit. They actually already came up with the December card kit, which I am very excited about, but we'll see. Here I am just adding a little bit of the color, finishing it up, and like I said, this is take 3 on this card. Like I said, was doing it in little bits and pieces, so you can see by the change of the lighting, because some days I was working super late at night, some days I was working during the day. So you can see the difference there as as I progress on making this card. But it was a lot of fun putting it together, don't get me wrong. So I am just adding a little bit more of details to the little bear. I wanted his little nose to be a little bit darker, so I am adding more of the color here. And then, that's pretty much all. I'm just, adding a little bit more of depth or color to areas that I wanted to include it, which, like the little heart, to include a little more. And once I was done with that, I actually went and fussy cut the little tree and the bear. Now, this little tree is kind of funny looking, so I had to kind of mess with it. And what I did, I just kind of um, watercolor all around it and then cut it out. So here I am going to put it together. I cut a panel from one of the pattern papers that was included, just a little bit smaller than an A2 size, and I'm putting it on my card base. And then I am just going to use that as a background for my little bear. Again, I'm not adding any dimension, just gluing stuff onto the card directly. So here's my little tree. I'm just putting it back, and then I am going to put my little bear again right here on the front. So I was thinking if I was going to add any foam tape, so I decided not to. I just glued it straight onto the cardstock, and then I stamped the word hello on a scrap of little paper from the same paper pad that came with it, or papers that came with it. And then I'm just cutting a little fishtail banner, gluing it right here next to his little leg, and it just says hello, just to kind of cover up that little trunk from the tree. Now for this other card, it is another one of the watercolor cards. I was going to cut it in half, but I decided to color them and fussy cut them out. And that was all I had on that one. But here I am going to be showing you each one of the cards. For this card, I used one of those watercolor cards that came with it. Basically colored it, trimmed it, and added foam tape all around. All of the insides are blank, but this is card number 1. Card number 2 is this adorable bunny that it says welcome baby, so I decided to make it a baby card. You can't see the pattern, but it has that little star pattern on the back. This other one I had shared on my Instagram, part of my 30-day coloring challenge from Kathy, and I had already shared it before, but I just put it onto the card base. This one, I colored these 2 little bears, and I used the grateful for you sentiment from that other card that I showed you for the little bear that I was coloring. I cut it out and I used it as a sentiment for this card. Here is my little reindeer one that, like I said, very clean and simple, and that's where I put the paper on the back so you didn't see. The little pom-pom, I think it looks really cute, and I added that one. So that's card number 5. Number 6, I created a shaker card using this, the little deer, and I stamped it. I stamped some of the little flowers around it, and I used a die to partially cut and then just kind of cut around it. That's what it is. Little shakers. I love shakers. You gotta make a shaker every time. This next one is also again very simple. I wanted to give him that like little storybook vintage look. And then this is, I think, one of my favorite ones. I used that watercolor cardstock or panel, cut it out, and I stamped the little trees behind it. I added some snow with a stencil, and then I put the little sentiment that says "Sending you love." So that's another one. I just love like all the happy colors, and I popped them up with some foam tape. Here's a little bear card that we put together that I kind of trim around and put it here. And here's what I'm gonna show you. That was the sentiment "Grateful for You" that was on that card set, so I used it for a second card. So here is card number, which number are we on? 8, I believe. Yes, number 8. And then here, or actually that was 9, and number 10 is this one. I used one of the little cut parts that came from the paper set that says "Kiss me underneath the mistletoe." So I decided to create a little mistletoe with a little bow from my stash and put the little deer on the bottom. But these are all the cards, the 10 cards that I created. I still have tons of supplies to create more, and I'm gonna do a little recap of the stuff that I have left to create tons and tons of more cards. I left this Nina Desert Stone paper full because I wanted to do some coloring on them, so I decided to leave that one so I could use it later on. I have a lot of little scraps of paper from the pattern paper that was included, including some of these little cut parts. And then here you can see more of the scrap pieces of paper that I could use to put other cards together. And then I do have still some full sheets of this pattern paper that was included. Also the Gina K Magic masking sheet or sticking sheet. I have that one, so that way I can use that as well later on. And then here you can see the complete pattern papers that I have left. So that's about, I think it was like 6 or 7 of them. So I'm super excited because I can use those to make a lot more cards. And then I also have the half a sheet of that gray fog and then a quarter sheet of the green one. I used some of my own card bases, so that's why I have those. But here you can see all of these watercolor panels that came with the kit that I still have a lot to make cards from. So I'm super excited about those. And you don't have to, just because they're a card panel already, use them as they are. Like you saw on the other ones, you can cut the images out and do them. Of course, I have my stamp set that I can use it again and again to make a lot of cards. Here is the watercolor palette that came with it, and you can see I barely touched it, so I have tons and tons of color to play with later on. Maybe I will use this one so that way my kids can help me watercolor if they want to do it, so that way you're not too worried about your a little bit better quality supplies. This will be a good one for the kids. But like I said, it was a lot of fun to use it as well, and I love that they included that on this card kit. And that's pretty much all I did. Before I forget, I do have all of the little pom-poms somewhere with the kit and my little dies. So like I said, tons and tons of cards that I can still create with this card kit, so I'm super excited about that. Let's do a little recap. Here are all my cards. I'm super excited, and I thank you very much for stopping by and watching this video. I am going to put them all at the end so that way you can see them side by side, or 2 cards at a time, and let me know which one is your favorite. I'd like to know in the comments down below. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope that you consider subscribing and hit that notification bell so that way you don't miss any of my videos when I post them. To all my current subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you so much for your support and your beautiful comments that you always leave me. I love to read them, and I know that I'm still catching up on some of them, but I do appreciate all the comments that I receive, and I thank you so guys very, very much. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Bye bye.